Yeah.
All right. Oh, so I guess I better share my screen with the agenda. Sorry, everybody. All right, here we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So here is tonight's agenda.
No, that's the outreach committee.
Oh, that is not tonight's agenda. This is tonight's agenda. That looks more like it. Yeah, so a pretty straightforward agenda. We do have a lot to kind of get through, so I think we'll just kind of jump right into it. So we'll call the meeting to order, 8:05 p.m. And yeah, meeting rules. There are no rules. If you have something to say, feel free to just say it. We're not super formal at this meeting. Everybody who's at this meeting is considered a committee member for the moment, for the time. So everybody here has the same amount of say as anybody else. So look forward to everybody kind of engaging in our conversations. Anything else, Gabby?
No. Nothing
All
else.
right. So we can go on with public comments. Anybody have any public comments?
Rahim, I know this is like the first time I've been here.
Yep.
Should I share the story of my cousin for this one, or what? Or will we-
Yeah. And so, let me stop my share. There we go. Just to give a little bit of backstory. So Crystal, and it was one of your cousins, right?
Yes.
Came to one of our neighborhood council meetings a couple months ago to tell the really sad, unfortunate story of her cousin neighbor being murdered about 7 months ago now in Jefferson Park. The perpetrators are still at large. And after the meeting, I got in touch with Crystal to just open a conversation about how we as a neighborhood council can get more involved in supporting her and her family in their efforts to kind of outreach to the community. So Crystal and I have been in touch now for maybe about a month, trying to come up with some ideas of how we can support, how the neighborhood council could support her family better. And I'm super happy that she came to this meeting tonight because we've been working on some ideas. And yeah, so if you can share the story of your cousin, if you want to share some of the social media posts that you have that we've talked about us sharing, that'd be fine also.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering if I can share my screen.
Yes, let me.
And again, thank you so much, Rahim, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it because yeah, it's been very difficult for me and my family, and it's nice to have folks like outside of like the family and the community to support.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Crystal, I've made you a co-host so you could share your screen.
Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So
Yep.
I created a Instagram page dedicated for my cousin and dedicated to keep the community updated on the investigation. And it's on Instagram. It's called Justice for Nabor Galvez. And throughout this month, I'm like creating a lot of little Instagram posts in order to honor him and his story and who he was to the community. He was born and raised in LA, and he lived the majority of his life in Jefferson Park. And sadly, they murdered him at his own home. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with the story, but I can also share with you all the NBC. It's only 2 minutes long. Do you mind if I play it?
Sure.
Okay, so let me stop sharing because I don't think I shared my. Okay.
It was 5 months ago last night that a 24-year-old man was gunned down in the backyard of his childhood home in the Jefferson Park area of South Los Angeles.
Tonight, his family shared their grief with our John Caddy's Klimak as they seek justice for his murder.
Welcome to our channel. I'm Nabor.
His smile and his voice. 24-year-old Nabor Galvez and his girlfriend having fun with a YouTube channel, just part of the way his family says he enjoyed every moment of life.
He had so many dreams and aspirations, and I was so excited to see him accomplish everything, you know, but that was stolen from us.
All right, we've got some breaking news to tell you about right now.
December 13th, 2020, Jefferson Park, near 30th Street and 9th Avenue, as the NBC4 News at 11 p.m. went on the air.
The motive for the shooting is unknown at this time, but one man was shot.
Galvez would be lying lifeless in his family's own backyard.
I asked him every day to forgive us because we didn't know how to save him. His own home, we didn't know how to protect him.
Victim leaving his girlfriend's house on his way home.
For the first time, LAPD South Bureau homicide detectives are sharing surveillance video of the suspects and their getaway car. Galvez was in the red Camaro, his alleged killers in a following Mercedes-Benz CLA. After Galvez pulls into his driveway, the video shows two suspects jump out of the Benz and then sprint towards the family home.
A home is a person's safe place, and my brother was in his childhood home when this happened, when he was ambushed and shot to death.
In the backyard, where photos show just how often the family would gather to celebrate all that is good in life. Multiple gunshots broke the night silence. Crime scene photos show those that missed Galvez. His family says they'll never erase the image of the ones that hit him. It was a pain like no other. His father says his heart felt paralyzed to see his boy lying on the pavement, his body riddled with bullets. It hurts not to have him close, his mother told us, not to hear his voice.
I heard my mother screaming outside, and I looked through my bedroom window, and that's when I saw his body laying on the floor, you know, pierced with bullet holes.
The shooters are seen running back to 9th Street, jumping back in the car and then taking off, leaving a family in grief, a neighborhood on edge, and a young man with so much life left to live dead. The Fairfax football star and son of immigrants, his parents were proud to see their kids graduate from college. Galvez with a degree in business law and dreams to go to law school next. During COVID, he was his mom's right-hand man at a flower shop in downtown L.A.
We want justice! We want justice!
Now those happier moments are overshadowed with the unknown, the who, and the why, and yet patience for justice. From Jefferson Park, John Caddy's Klimak.
We will never know true happiness again.
NBC4 News.
Sorry, that video always gives me goosebumps. But yeah, that's the story that of Nabor. We're just trying to seek justice and also increase the safety of the community, because I feel like that's super important. It's scary that you can't even go walk your dog around the community without feeling fear. And yeah, I just don't want something like this to happen to another family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Crystal. And I'm sure that watching that video must be super hard for you over and over again. So, but thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing the look at the Instagram page. I don't know who's creating those, but they're really beautiful tributes to Nabor. And these are the things that we want to share. So I think we kind of talked about a plan, we kind of fell off, but I think maybe what we can look into is like next week, if you can send me those files, those images, we can maybe share one a day. We can start off the week just by explaining that we're going to be sharing one image every day. And just to kind of, again, this is just like to tell his story. And I know that you're in touch with the council, with Councilman Ridley's office now. And I hope that you've maybe gotten some more in better contact with the investigators on the case. But I think this first phase, where I think we're going to focus on just like getting his story out there. If there does come a time where you feel like you're not getting the attention from law enforcement that you feel like you can be getting, we can talk about how we might be able to amplify that message for you. But like, let's just stay close and stay in touch about it, and however we can kind of help to amplify you and your family's voice, we definitely want to do that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Raheem. And also it was your idea of like sharing his story. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. I mean, I think when I think there's a natural tendency when people are murdered in ways like that to just they become like very one-dimensional. And I obviously didn't know your cousin, but I know that he was more than just somebody that got murdered in his backyard. He was way more than that. So I look forward to sharing his story. And then, anything else beyond that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, Laura.
Hang on, head on mute. I have a question. If you're gonna do this next week, Raheem, starting at some point next week, can I get 2 paragraphs about that we're gonna do this so I can put it in an e-blast from our mail?
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't know that I could write the 2 paragraphs.
Yeah. That's fine. Just let me know when you need it by, and I can probably do that.
Yeah, so we have 3. By Monday morning, I need to do 3 meetings this week e-blast. So it'd be good to do it on. It would be good for me to do that e-blast on Sunday.
Okay.
Which would be just get it to me Sunday morning. So in other words, I need to time this so that, as you know, it's always the 24-hour space between e-blasts.
Yep.
So
I can do that.
okay. And you do this in Facebook, right?
We're gonna do it on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, so what you would do, just give me the 2 different links to our broad Facebook and our broad Instagram.
Yeah, and Laura, I think we had talked a little bit about, because since we can't boost things right now, since we don't have
no, we can. We're back. We just had that.
Oh.
Yeah, July 1, we got an email from the clerk saying we're good to go. Accepted.
Oh, cool.
Packet. So
all
go
right,
ahead.
well, so we're good to boost.
Don't
all right, perfect.
Abandon, but I think $6 to $10, which is what it usually costs, would be,
Yeah.
Okay.
We will boost responsibly. Thank you. Oh, cool. And Crystal just shared the LinkedIn Instagram page. So perfect. Yeah. So Crystal, the sooner you can send me the images that you have so far, and then any more that you have, we'll just continue to post the rest next week. Great. And you can help with email too. Perfect. We'll touch base after this, Crystal, and we'll kind of tag team the effort. Great. All right. Any other public comments? All right. Seeing none. Thank you again, Crystal. Website updates. Gabby, is there something specific that we have for this, or Michael? I see you here too. I think we're probably overdue for a meeting with Anne.
Yeah, we are. I just
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you really briefly about that and see if we wanted to get that going again.
Yeah.
Right. And this is sort of a website update, Raheem. Greg and I are awaiting any sort of response from the city clerk to see what we need to do to both renew the contract and to pay her for May and June. My inclination, unless you guys tell me different, is to put an agenda item on executive next, which is Tuesday, that says renew contract at same terms.
Because this isn't the first time.
Same rate, same hours, same scope of work for now.
This isn't the first time we've renewed, right? We renewed with her.
This will be a second renewal. Right? Yeah. This will be a second renewal. But I mean, I'm trying to say this with mitigated statement. This is what I would like to do. I'm not sure, what this clerk will want or how Greg wants to handle it. So I'm trying to do a simple generic agenda item, and I wrote that proposed agenda item in the email that went to the clerk. So
got it.
So
we'll see.
Yes.
Dennis, what's up?
I'd like to understand what we're talking about on a website update. Are we redesigning or just, I mean, I hear Laura saying we need to renew the contract. We need to be out there on the net, but you had a really nice survey. Are you talking about making some changes based on that survey?
Sorry, good question, Dennis, and sorry for not giving more context. Yeah, so a couple of things there. The contract is just, we have an annual contract with our web master, for lack of a better term. She's it's a lady named Ann Zoomwinkle. She maintains our website, she updates it, she kind of keeps the lights on as far as the website goes.
Hosts all the agendas.
Right. And so like with the city, there's a contract that we have with her that expires every year that we have to just renew. And so that's kind of like it's just kind of like a logistical thing that needs to happen there. In addition to that, we've been in talks with Anne. There's a small group of us, Gabby, myself, Michael's on the call, and Taylor, who happens to be a new board member. We've had a couple meetings with Anne about how we can improve the website. We kind of concluded that we don't want to necessarily do an entire overhaul of the website as far as the design and everything. We really want to focus on just making what exists on the website better and have it function better, look a little bit better, and just be maybe a little bit more intuitive. And so there's kind of like a task force, if you will, that's like working on that. But like Gabby and I were saying a little bit ago, I think the last time we met was probably maybe 2 months ago. So we're due for another meeting. We have like an entire spreadsheet of issues that have been brought up and they've been prioritized. Happy to share that with you or anybody else that's interested. It's a living, breathing document that we can always continue to like update and reprioritize and shift things around. And it's just kind of open for anybody's input. But yeah, the goal is to definitely have a website that looks and functions better than it does today.
Okay, I'd love to be given a chance to contribute to that. I agree with what you certainly have to say about maintaining the existing look, the brand. You don't want to throw out everything that you've done up to now, but perhaps I'm going to guess we're talking about it'd be more of an invite for people to participate. It'll be more accessible. Maybe it'll be more exciting, whatever we think works. Yeah,
we definitely want it. Yeah, I mean, so we've had this conversation about like what purpose does the website serve? Because we have a Facebook account, we have an Instagram account now. Those two platforms kind of serve their own purposes. So like what does a website do that those things don't do? And it's information. Like there's just more space to kind of be more robust with information that kind of tells things about who we are and hopefully encourages stakeholders to get involved in all the things that we do. So the question kind of comes back to how do we best showcase that and make it enticing so that people really want to be part of what we're doing.
Great.
Yeah, so Dennis, what I'll do, I'll shoot you an email when we're done here. Matter of fact, I'll shoot an email that includes like the other task force members. I'll include you on that so we can maybe schedule our next chat and you can be a part of that.
Great. Just to make sure I understand something, this Anne, I guess the webmaster, she's the one doing the design. What we're talking about is coming up with the concept and what message we want to put out. Is that it?
Yeah. So I mean, there's not. She does the design, but the design, the look of the website is kind of locked into its template. It's a template, right? So there's design elements that she does create.
It's more of the maintaining the structure, I would say, the infrastructure of the website.
Yeah.
And we are, sort of thinking about the look of the website, but not exactly changing anything at this point.
Does that answer your question, Dennis?
Yes, I'd like to add one on that. I see Laura's got a question, but when I was in publishing, we were being sort of forced to maintain a website for our own products, our own publishing lines. And so we were working in a template and it was rather crude, but we just simply provided the content for a particular block on the website. So that's all we were doing. We weren't changing the layout, but we just like like putting some more information on this month's calendar. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that sounds similar to what we're trying to be. Like we're trying to, yeah, we want to be able to have it be that like kind of plug and play where we're not having to do too much else other than like plug new information in and plug better information in.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Laura?
Yeah, so Dennis, and an additional part, we've had people say to us, and Raheem has luckily then pulled them in to be on his task force. He's like, hey, you've got some ideas, join us. But we've had people say it's hard to find things. You know, like, how do I find the bylaws? How do I find the whatever? So, you know, some of what we're talking about is just making it more intuitively findable without changing the whole website. And then on top of everything else, we have a year of very little money. So to some extent, well, it's curious with all the money that's flowing now from the federal government, why our budgets weren't, the neighborhood council and 99 neighborhood councils budgets weren't restored to the normal 45,000 or 44,000, but they were not. So we're at 32, of which half is consumed with the combination of our basic administration and the website and communications. So we don't have a whole lot of other money to throw at this point. And I'm just crossing fingers that somebody at city council is going to realize that, oh, wait a minute, we should be restoring their budgets so that they can do their work. But right now they haven't. And, maybe one of the things all 99 neighborhood councils need to do is write letters to their council, representatives and say, show us the money because we're spending the money in the community. So I'm digressing, but on the website, they've done a huge amount of work to make it more engaging, but they want to do more. And at the same time, make it so a person who's new at looking for things on it, they can find them. Because it's also the place we store our information.
Okay, so thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Gabby. So Gabby, we'll send out an email to like our little team, and then we'll include Dennis and try to get something else on the books.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is eBlast template. Gabby, I think you had this on there.
Well, probably my request.
Yeah, the eBlast template was something that I think Lizzie had requested.
And Laura.
Yeah, so I guess Lizzie had some ideas about how to update the template, and so we're open to hearing those ideas and making the changes that we agree on the MailChimp template. So if we want to be involved in that, Raheem and I will need access to the MailChimp template. Laura, I don't know who maintains
Yeah, I
that,
think
but,
Raheem, you have it, don't you? But so
yeah,
so
I have a login.
Yeah, it's a
okay.
So Gabby, what it is that it's cumbersome. Now I have figured out after a year and a half, 2 years, I have done some workaround, so I'm a little more able to use it for. So the meetings this week coming. We have 3 meetings. We have 2 meetings. That's one template, and it's cumbersome but doable. The email that we use for more newsy things is called Neighborhood Note, NOW. Is that my?
So are all those different e-blasts that you send out?
Well, so in other words, what I have found in the template package is only 2 that I can use at all, right? So there may be some others, but the one that when I send out something that is just like an e-blast of news and not the agendas with the template with the Zoom links and all that. What it doesn't have is different places to pop images. So I can stick one image in, and then when you receive it, it might be at the bottom of your email. It might be in the middle where I put it. It might be at the top, or it might end up as an attachment. And I can't
so
multiple images.
I mean, that's all fine. I'm familiar with the templates, so we can, you know, create some templates for you to use that will send, you know, the e-blast. It will look the same across all email platforms. So I'm not too worried about that. What I want to spend time on is just getting some suggestions for changing the template, and or, you know, what we're thinking here, because I read the emails from Lizzie, so I want to hear from Lizzie as well about what we want to change. And it sounds to me like we want to do maybe a different layout where pictures are able to stay on the same place, and, you know, it doesn't look, you know, like weird on one email platform and not in the other. So yeah, just if we can spend some time just hearing from Lizzie as well on changes.
Sure. I believe I had sent a message with including a post and a MailChimp, I think it was MailChimp as well, from OPNC.
Right.
Yeah, I think that one was Constant Contact, but we can do the same thing on MailChimp.
Yes.
It's not a problem.
Constant Contact. So it was just a suggestion from myself, because I also know that Laura had expressed concern about how restrictive it seems, in the sense that this one, for example, from Constant Content, had multiple images intercalating with multiple images. So content, image, content, corresponding image. And that is something that I don't think we see in our, probably Laura might want to use. Too, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot
in
of
other words,
background noise. I don't know who is it.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was
It's
wondering
me.
if it's
Sorry,
me, but
I'm
I
trying
don't
to stay
think
on
so.
mute.
The child has gone away. So yeah, so essentially, I think we're all on the same page. It is the thing I've been asking about, and it's not torture to do the MailChimp stuff, but it's not the simplest thing either. So you know, on the other one is where we send out the agendas, where it's, you know, the introduction, and then, I mean, it's a little bit complicated because you have to remember to change every line, because that template, there'll be a bar that, and then it says communications committee, and if a person clicked on that, then they go to the communications committee agenda. So it is a little more technically complicated, but it's not hard. It's just so easy to forget to make the changes. And then you might end up sending out, nobody's noticed, and you send out an e-blast saying we have 2 meetings this week, and it's outreach and communications. And then when you go down the bottom, it says economic development. You click on it and it still goes to communications, but it's, you know, I've sort of learned to be real careful, but that's important anyway, because Zoom links, if you're not careful, really go south. So I've learned to check all the links anyway, but if it didn't have to have it that way, it'd be good.
And I think this is something that we've talked to Anne about.
I did.
I think Anne, you did?
Right when we hired her. Yes, I did.
And yeah, and she's familiar, like she knows MailChimp, right?
I think so. She just seems to have taken direction from you that we have some much bigger, higher priorities.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is like deserving. I hate to create like another task force, but I mean, because it sounds like there's like some moving parts here. There's like the technical side of it where we need our templates like cleaned up, and then I think there's also like a design side of this where we need our templates like to look nice and pretty.
Right.
And so I think we might need to pull together like just a few really interested and capable parties to just kind of like drill on this with Anne. We can maybe set some time with Anne to talk specifically about MailChimp to set us up with just a couple of templates that moving forward we can use
Right.
for the three different kind of templates or three
Right.
different kind of emails that go out.
And then the other thing that I did, I just made a decision that the one that I use the most, that thing called Neighborhood No, when I inherited it, it had the president's photograph in it. And I just felt that that's just not the proper use of that email. So I deleted that. Well, no, I mean, it had, but that's how it had been for president to president to president. I just thought, nah, this isn't about the president. This is about UNNC. But that is a decision that could change. I just didn't feel right about it.
Okay. What's up, Dennis?
Are we making these decisions so independently that we're not paying attention to what the other 98 neighborhood councils are doing as far as email blasts and websites? Or can we get some information useful from them? Like copy them even?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what started part of this conversation, right? Because Lizzie shared what OPNC, the Olympic Park Neighborhood Council, does, and she was like, "Oh, I really like this." And so that's kind of like the impetus for this for this specific conversation. Even though we've had prior conversations about the e-blast, that's what fueled this specific conversation. So that's what's happening.
I should say, in answer, the OPNC template is also the Van Nuys template. It's also the Chatsworth template. And that is because it's the Wendy template. So Raheem, you know what that means. Wendy's the person we let go and we hired Anne. So, which is not to say she wasn't doing a good job. She just charged us. She did it. Wendy was doing our e-blast herself. So every time it was a cost. And so I'm going to guess that the templates we have in the MailChimp folder may have come from Jeff and Denise in anticipation that we weren't going to pay before we hired him, but in anticipation we needed to reduce our costs of this because we wanted to communicate more often than once or twice a month. But I don't dislike, I like the red, orangey brown and the olivey, sagey green. I've been able to emulate those two colors in typeface. So, that part, we don't need it. I don't think we need to change, but I think we do need to make it where we can have many more photos and more clarity on the items. The other thing that some of these e-blasts from neighborhood councils have is more of that live, where you put your cursor over an image and it takes you out to a place. I don't think we're there yet. I think that's why Wendy gets paid, because I think she's directly linking it to stuff. And I don't know that it's necessary, because it's just as easy to copy and paste, the actual URL, and you can click on that. So, I think this is a baby steps thing, maybe.
Yeah, but yes. And I think Dennis brings up a good point that as we kind of continue down this path, let's like keep looking at what anybody else is doing I'm sure Lizzie is doing that. Right. clearly she is.
Right. Right. I can share, because a lot of these come into the UNNC inbox.
I have definitely noticed the look of those different e-blasts that you have mentioned from the different NCs. And what I like about them is that there is less text, more interaction between image and text. And there's more like sort of sections, more defined sections for each type of item that is being shared. So it's personally more appealing to me than just looking at trying to read a whole bunch of text, even though there is a mix of colors. Sure. And also the font might be different, could be different.
Font's very difficult in E stuff. The other thing that I would like us to be able to do, like tomorrow, if we could, There is a function in MailChimp where there's a Facebook and one could click on the Facebook and immediately what's in the blast can share to our Facebook, but I'm not an admin at Facebook. So when I try to do it at ours, so when I try to do it, it wants to go to West Adams Heritage Association. That's not so good. I mean, it'd be fine, but that's not our purpose. So I don't know if whoever's going to be ultimately doing the MailChimp should also be an admin on our Facebook, or if there's a way to change the link there to allow a post to our Facebook without a person being the admin, if I'm saying that right. So I'm when I say I don't know, that it's a technology question. I don't know, but we've not been able to do that. What's really good about the MailChimp is it's got really, really, really good information about not just how many people have opened the email, but we can know who they are. We can see which places they've clicked on. So for example, to my surprise, the most popular item in the last one I sent out was the mayor's new program, on Zoom where you can learn and earn. And lots of people are clicking on that. And so, so that's but it's a good thing to be able to track that in a way that we aren't able to track on Facebook.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's make the first step, and I'll come to you right next, Dennis. Let's make this first step. We'll set up a call with Anne. Anybody wants to be a part of that? I think should definitely be Lizzie, Laura, Gabby. Sounds like you've been, Dennis, you want to be in on this too?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll send another email with that information tonight. And we'll get that set up so you guys can have that first technical conversation. From there, we'll kind of see what other requirements we have. If there's any design elements, we'll bring our design team into it. Let's start with the technical side of things and see what needs to be done there, and then we'll kind of go from there. But thank you, Lizzie, for bringing this up. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Lizzie.
Oh, I'm wondering, Lizzie, you've done some research here. Could you direct us to some particular sites to look at so we could take advantage of your research so I can see some of these things?
I can send you some. There's just when you subscribe to a neighborhood council e-blast, that's what you get. It just gets fed into my personal Gmail. So I open them up and I look, and there's this one that I particularly liked, both for the content, because it was also listing their accomplishments for the year in a very concise manner. And that's actually, so then I was volunteered to do that for the retreat. So that's coming up.
You were actually volunteered to do it for the e-blast, but I guess it's now going to be the retreat.
I totally did. I totally did. And then it turned out.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yes. So anyway,
I finally gave up and just thanked the departing board members and didn't wait for our accomplishments.
Well,
there's too many to list. Too many to list.
I understand why, because I didn't help either. Life happens.
But that's okay. We can always do it, even though.
No, we will. I mean, as soon as you get that together, we will.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, Dennis, I will be sharing you a link to the Olympic Park Neighborhood Council e-blast. And maybe there's a Border Ranch, maybe. I can't remember.
I think Chatsworth is very similar, but also good. And Van Nuys is good.
So I'm making a note for myself to send you. To send you those. Okay?
Right. And I think Nandasi.
Actually, Lizzie, can you share them with all of us? So we can Lizzie, review them prior to our meeting.
Yeah, wait for me to send that email tonight, Lizzie, and then if you could just respond to that email with everybody, that everybody will be on with those examples. That'd be awesome.
Send it to Rahim, Dennis, Gabby, Laura, and who else would like to receive it?
Well, if you send it, if you include me, even though I've seen all of those, if there's anything else I want to add, because I think I'll go look. Nandasi has redone theirs, but oops, they've never lost their e-list. So I'll re-sign up.
Theirs is so different in the sense of they're structured so differently from us. I
understand, but they've hired a designer to do something cool, but I think they lost their email list in the process. So I'm going to re-sign up for it.
Yes. No worries. I will be sharing those links with you guys. No problem.
And the other one that I don't get, but I think is probably good is Mar Vista. Because they have a very lively website. So they might have, I would think they have a lively e-blast as well. But I'll check that out.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Looking forward to what we come up with there for the new e-blast templates. All right, moving right along. Next on the agenda is our UNNC Day of Block Parties update. So just to kind of fill everybody in, the idea here that we have as a committee is to somehow host a day of block parties all throughout our footprint. So this is like multiple block parties happening in our different areas on the same day at the same time, as a way to kind of get people, well, Jesus, this might be a terrible idea now that these numbers are going.
Masking back up.
We initially came up with this idea when everything was kind of seeming like it was really cooling down and was going to be better by the end of the summertime. But as I'm saying it out loud now, it sounds a little dangerous.
Yes, my coworker, my brother's co-worker's wife has just been diagnosed with COVID. She was fully vaccinated in March.
Yeah.
Just got diagnosed.
Yeah. We just canceled Living History Tour as well for September. We're rescheduling it till April. So, because there's no crystal ball on, is it going to get worse? I will say, my partner in crime over here is so happy that we're going to have, he has an open house, real estate open house on Sunday, and now we can force the masks, which we wanted to do anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think our day of block parties, we might need. I think it's. I still think it's a really good idea. But I think we need to be responsible and probably just need to hold off until we actually have a hold on COVID. So we were initially planning on doing this at the end of August, which feels very soon now. So yeah, so let's put the day of block parties on ice for now. But Lizzie, I know, and so, but well, anyway, just to give an update. So one of the things that we had talked about as far as funding was we were going to see if we can get some funding from our councilman's office. I sent an email and I heard back that they were going to look into it and kick it up the chain. I haven't heard back yet. That was about 2 weeks ago. So due for a follow-up there, I will. And Lizzie, I'm remembering right now that you sent me an email asking for some sort of status, which I never responded to. I'm very sorry. But that's all I really have to report. I think there were a couple of you who were supposed to be doing some other digging on things too.
I was interested to know who else had volunteered to do something, because that seems to be what holds us back from actually holding these events. Like with I'm sorry to mention it, but you know, with and I mentioned it to you in my email, the virtual show that you know, we were so excited and then nothing happened. So I think it needs to be really coming from all of us. I mean, the work, the organization, and so anyway, I had forgotten what I have volunteered for.
Me too. I got to go back to my notes.
You did reach out to the council for this one, for the block parties. But I had.
Well, you may have volunteered to give him, I'm going to make it easy. Probably what you volunteered was to give him the list of all the contacts of people for all the neighborhood associations and block clubs that Greg put together.
Gosh,
no.
It was something else. I'm sorry.
That would have been easy. You should say, yeah, that was it.
Anyway,
it's all good. We'll so at next month's meeting, we'll see what things are looking like. Hopefully numbers will be down and, you know, miraculously we'll be closer to being out of this thing.
We'll just table it and we'll be able to hold the event.
Yeah, I have to say people are real excited to get back together, right? We did a 4th of July and it was to be a bring your own picnic. and we're grilling hot dogs, and people did not bring their own picnics by and large, but we did grill a lot of hot dogs. And Dennis, you were there, right?
Yes, loved it.
Yeah, and people were not social distancing, and they weren't wearing their masks, and they were hugging each other. And it's like, oh no. So we also run that risk, is what I'm trying to say. People were so excited to see each other after 15 months. And they had fun, and there was a jazz. I mean, in other words, it's a slightly different thing, but the risk as a neighborhood council is that people did not follow the emails that said wear your mask, social distance, eat with your own family, then socialize. Didn't do it. Everybody just gathered at the tables.
Yeah. Okay. Good to remember that we need to be vigilant, super vigilant still.
Well, but they were socializing. I mean, far be it for me to say, hey, Dennis, don't sit so close to the whoever. It wouldn't have been nice or fun. Yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is it's a good reminder that we shouldn't even give people the opportunity to to not socially distance. So all right, so we'll circle back on this next month. The last item on our agenda is super exciting. So based on the brand survey that we sent out, our small little creative team has been working on a brand presentation that we're going to present at the retreat a week from Saturday. So we wanted to just kind of run through it and give a sneak peek of, it's still a work in progress. Just wanted to kind of give a sneak peek to our committee here. So Laura, if you can give Mickey,
do I need to make him a host? Obviously.
Yes, please. Our wonderful graphic designer, responsible for works such as Your Vote Counts, our election campaign, and other neighborhood council fabulous things. He's been working really hard on this presentation. We're really excited about it. We're kind of drilling in on the final details. He's going to be the one doing the presenting at the
right. Can I be the mama bear with the note of caution, or at least for people who aren't on the committee? So it's not funded, and we have that same issue with money. So so for Dennis, we haven't voted to implement, but we had voted back in February to explore, and they're doing a knee-deep exploration. I haven't seen this either, but that's my note of, everyone hates me when I bring up these conservative cautionary admonitions, but I'm excited to see what you have. And you're muted, Mickey. Mike. Are you Mickey or Mike?
Mickey. Yeah, my real name's Michael. My full name's Michael, but
right, but I see you put in Mickey, and we've been calling you Michael all this time.
I go by either. Let me see if I can share my screen. You'll have to forgive me. It's been a bit of a long day, so I hope that I do this presentation justice. Let me know if everyone can see that.
Yep.
Cool. So I guess I'll just jump in, unless Raheem, do you want to give a setup, or do you want me to just kind of go for it?
Jump in. This was just going to be a really rough take at the presentation.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the sort of cause for this presentation was based on the conversations that we had internally within the communications committee when we were kind of doing these sort of one-off assignments where we needed something for the elections, and then we needed something for social media, and then we needed something else, and it felt a bit disparate and a bit disjointed. And at the same time, I think I had sat in on a couple of meetings, and there seemed to be some thoughts about how things should be said versus how they were being said. And I kind of brought up the idea of, maybe taking a look at this. And I always feel like it's like the same approach as like a doctor, where you're kind of assessing symptoms almost, not that anybody's sick or anything, but like you're just kind of understanding kind of what's the core of this situation that we're in. And I think what we ended up doing was putting together something that's hopefully cohesive and coherent, and kind of walking you through our process. So essentially, I've sort of explained the why, but we have a little bit more detail on that. And then the how was a couple of meetings that we had internally, doing some of our own research, and then meeting individually with the different board members, as well as this survey and questionnaire that kind of went out. And then the what is our findings, as well as sort of the distilling of all of that information that we received as we understood it. So there's a bit of interpretation to it too. And then sort of putting that through the lens of, what are the trends currently, the larger trends, for brands and companies and organizations, whether they're nonprofit or not, that, we can also leverage as ourselves to create a better impact and communicate our message a little bit better. So finally, the promise and the pillars are really what we believe UNNC to be about, and how we best communicate sort of the unique proposition to our constituents, to our stakeholders. And then the pillars are just what our beliefs are, sort of a derivative of that statement, what our beliefs are that the brand should hold. So again, I think we can look at this, you can read on your own, but I think there's a couple of call outs, and this was definitely, it's a bit of reverse engineering here, but we definitely heard this through our meetings and in our discussions with different board members, that we feel really that there's a need to establish clarity around what UNNC is to our stakeholders. And there's a bit of mixed messaging on what we actually do and how we can actually impact the livelihood of our stakeholders. So we can skip to, I think elevating the UNNC profile and building awareness is a really big part of this process. I think not only are we trying to establish brand recognition, but I think there's a component of this that we need to tie, what we do and what our value is to people being able to recognize that in our brand. And that came through in some of the questionnaires as well. And then I think something that is also important, and the bottom two are kind of linked, but expressing the character of the organization seems really important too. There were a lot of mentions of us being trustworthy, us being inclusionary, and diverse. And I think those things really are there, but maybe a little bit befuddled in the way that they're being expressed across these different mediums. So the how, as you know, I kind of briefly ran through this, but we did a survey consisting of 22 past and present board members. We had discussions with committee chairs. We also, our photographer, who I've been working with, we spoke to some stakeholders like business owners in the area when we were getting photography, and some of them knew us, some of them didn't. And then the sort of internal review that the communications committee put on. So that was our methodology. Research methodology sounds like a big statement, but I think this is, for lack of a better term, this is kind of how we approach this process. Also, feel free to interrupt me at any moment. So the what is our findings, right? So understanding UNNC through the lens of people, place, and impact. That was sort of our three main categories. And we started with people, but this was some results from our findings. So the top three most important issues that people felt, this was from our survey, that people felt were important to communicating the identity of UNNC, was the local government engagement. So our relationship as this sort of in between people and policy. And then the second sort of greatest or most common answer was that we should be communicating something about the history. We have a lot of history in our neighborhood. It's important to be communicated, and that people recognize us associated with the historic values of our neighborhoods. And then lastly, neighborhood outreach. So how are we engaging and connecting? That was one of the things that was very important in this survey. So as it relates to the current brand and where we are and what people's recognition of that brand, it says, this was one of our findings, you can read the question there, but basically more than 75% of the survey participants believe that people living within the UNNC neighborhoods would not recognize the UNNC brand. So that is, I mean, again, we're sort of using our representatives as our measure here, but I think there's something to be said about, you know, this lack of awareness and how we're trying to create engagement, but that lack of awareness is the greatest hurdle in doing so. And then lastly, and you know, you can look at this statistic either way, right? 50% is somewhat effective, and very effective, or 50% not effective and not very effective. So but I think the message to me is that we're not really doing, you know, in all of these kind of mixed platforms, and we're not doing the service of communicating who we are as an organization, and people are missing out on that opportunity, and thereby we're losing on engagement. So this is the part where we've sort of taken the creative license to interpret some of these things and what they mean to us. So the UNNC is an organization defined by people. That's the first kind of lens that we looked at this through. It's beyond the renters, owners, visitors, and, you know, business owners. It's about the exchange, and how do we, as a company or an organization rather, see ourselves engaging with our people. I thought this was really nice. So we have some quotes throughout. This was from Lizzie. Lizzie, apologies. I realized I spelled your name wrong after I put this in PDF, so I apologize. Yeah, so I think this was said beautifully. We're trying to convey a message that we are inclusive, diverse, and we can help each other improve our lives for the better. That feels like it in a nutshell. And it's great to kind of hear people say this in their own voices, because I think together it's kind of this harmonizing moment of you know, how UNNC operates, and indicative of how we operate. So one of the things that we spoke about too is that essentially, you know, we have a broad array of people living within the 6 regions and or working within the 6 regions, and how do we communicate to them? And in our discussions, it seemed like actually listening and active listening, what is the language of all? And that's how we can speak. So being really open and receptive to hearing people is enticing and creates a dialogue. This was another great quote by Greg Jackson, saying, it's not about closing out an agenda item, it's about opening up a relationship and a chance for connection. So we've dubbed this executing with empathy. So from listening, executing with empathy, we realize that we are sort of in the business of the human exchange, right? We are an organization that is in constant dialogue with the people that it serves. And it's something that we need to be mindful of when we express this, right? So the more direct and more honest and sort of simple and straightforward our language can be, the better off we are. So it starts with listening, sort of executing with empathy, and then this language that's simplified and direct and straightforward. So now this is sort of transitioning into our understanding of place, right? And not just the physical space, but sort of more figuratively looking at you know, the elements of history, the sort of look forward at the future, and kind of what developments are going on. As well as the textures and things that just kind of like add layers to it. So this was said by Hugo. We're an organization, UNNC is an organization that it's important to understand our history, or how UNNC was formed. Understanding how UNNC was formed, how the neighborhood came together, tells me how it will be, how it will operate. So looking back to look forward. There's something really relevant to our story in that. And then again, talking about the sort of old and new and this eclectic mix, we realized that there's this really interesting sort of harmony of different textures, and they create sort of this broad you know, array of different styles and textures that we feel we want to bring into the brand as we look at kind of revisiting that. This was said by Tori, and I think this was really beautiful, but it's about compassion. And she said that very simply and straightforward, and showing concern for our neighbor. It's the most important thing we can do. And then understanding that within the region, it's not just about the buildings, the spaces, the textures. It's also it's sort of an environment where life happens. So it's those moments of exchange, right? A smile, a wave to a neighbor, a helping hand. Those are the things that start to really define us as a community. And then this was again said by Greg. He said a lot of great things, but really at the core, we're here to simply serve. And he said, we must be a translator of policy, an organization that scaffolds policy. And so part of that in our action, I think it's necessary for us to, I think this was said a couple times in our meetings, that there's a lot of a cloud of confusion around what UNNC does for its constituents. And that it's almost our responsibilities to demystify the this big thing that we're working with, where we're liaising with the city, and there's all these technical terms and all these things, and simply do, right? Simply serve, simply do. So this idea of transparency is really important. So that's sort of our understanding of UNNC and the different moving components, and then understanding the trends at large, right? And we highlighted two that I think are very relevant to us. So authenticity matters. I think we know that, and there's been a lot of talk in our discussions with the chairs that we need to be more transparent. We need to be very clear and honest about kind of who we are and what we do, and that's a trend right now in brands at large, right? So big and small. So this idea, for example, we have a Nike ad here, which is obviously we're a completely different organization, but the communication to a large audience is the same, right? We're understanding that authenticity is working, and people are gravitating toward that. And then we have a couple of other examples, like this is, if you're familiar with the brand Casper, which is that mattress company, they, a bunch of other companies have opened up places where people can experience their brand. So it's not just a store, it's a pop-up, and they're calling it, I think it's called a dreamery or something. So we're seeing that brands are moving from, okay, how do we engage with our clientele? How do we engage with our stakeholders? Oh, sorry. Hold on, keep going. Somebody have a question? No.
Yeah, keep going. I think Dennis just got unmuted for a second. We're fine now.
Okay. Yeah. So the main point is experiences are really now a part of a brand, right? So it's not just the logo. It's not just the pretty color or the e-blast. It's how are we really touching and living out, the experiences of our brand. So all of that, we've sort of tried to boil it down into one statement. And this is our brand promise. So understanding the brand aspirations and what we intend to do. So we're seeking to define UNNC as an organization that exudes an honest and empathetic approach to neighborhood council with respect for and empowered by its history and people, providing local services to its community of stakeholders. It acts with stewardship, direct communication, and an undeniable commitment to the quality of life for all. And hopefully we've done our job in stating that. And then finally, the pillars, and these are kind of what we hope the brand will communicate once we've kind of sort of revisited that. So this idea that we need to execute with empathy, I think, is really strong. And the ways in which we do that, I think, are through experiences. COVID pending, I think something like the block parties is a great opportunity to kind of, it's human, there's interactions, we're fostering connection, and there's a real sense of empathy in that action. In a lot of our discussions too, it was important to note that, we are sort of a liaison between people and policy. We work with the city, right? So this idea of advocacy is very strong, and we're working on behalf of our constituents, but we are sort of policy facing in a way, which I think gives some authority and sort of power behind it. Trustworthy, I think is an obvious one. I think it's between transparency and trustworthy, but I feel like trustworthy is a more human word, right? And I think at the end of the day, UNNC is made up of its people, right? And its people are what make it what it is. So acting in that nature, I think, will only kind of like reverberate that brand, right? In that brand. The other thing is, so the second to last one, symbolic. This idea that we are an organization that not only represents its people, but we are representing and translating to a degree policy to our people. So we have to work in sort of symbols, and we have to work in a way that is fundamental and easy to understand. And then lastly, and I think again, this ties back to the human idea, is hands-on, right? I've heard from a lot of the chairs that really it's about people engaging with people and being really hands-on. And I think to Greg's quote about opening up a relationship, like we're not closing out an agenda item. We are going above and beyond and kind of taking things beyond a task and seeing them through. Yeah, so that is where we're at. I'm not sure if you want to go further. Do you want to share the concept?
I think we're a little bit over time, so I think we'll stop here. No, definitely not your fault at all. But thank you. And I will say that in working with Mickey for these last feels like a long time, but I think it's only been like a few months. But he's really shown himself to be an expert in this area of work. And so, as we were putting this together, like it just became clear at a certain point that he's the one that should be presenting this, and I'm really excited for him to present this to the board. And I think the timing couldn't be any more perfect. Like as we're coming together at the retreat with a brand new board, I think having a document like this that spells out what our brand identity is, it just comes at the perfect time where it's obviously something that that we'll talk about at the retreat, and this is something that will move and shift depending on how people kind of receive it. But I think having this conversation at this time will be really important and really, really valuable for us. So I'm just really excited about this work and all the work that Mickey and that we've done on this. So by the time we show this at the retreat, we will have some logo concepts to look at and consider. But again, the final decision is going to be up to the board as far as what direction we want to go as a group. But again, we wanted to show this to this committee tonight, just to kind of get people's feedback, thoughts. We're kind of rushing to kind of close this out, but wanted to get as much feedback as we could prior to presenting to the entire board a week from Saturday. So thank you, Mickey. Really great job. As always, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, I know we're over time, but I want to open it up if anybody has any questions or feedback for us. We'd love to hear it. And if not, I'll just assume that everybody thought that it was fantastic, and we'll say goodnight.
But Raheem, I actually have my hand up as best I could because I can't do a blue hand. So I think this was fabulous. It's wonderful. So these are not criticisms. These are to compliment.
It's fine if they are.
So a couple of things. One, we often talk. So I know you guys, because John and I never responded, never talked to John Arnold or myself, right? So what we talk about all the time at Planning and Zoning Committee, twice a month, is the character of our community. And that goes two ways. It's the character of the people, and it's the character of the architecture. I didn't see the word character, and I actually didn't see the word architecture or houses in the presentation. I think it's important. What is the character of architecture? Well, UNNC's geography is home probably to the highest concentration of historical craftsman style homes. Jefferson Park is well known for it, as is Harvard Heights, Western Heights, but there, in all of the photos, there was not one craftsman style home. So I think we need to add that. We don't need to talk about it, but I just think to reflect what we're known for it would be to add that. And a big part of our job, or any neighborhood council's job, and it does feel like a job sometimes, it's not just to serve the stakeholders or to go to City Hall and give a message. It's to help empower all of those other 79,999 stakeholders out of the 80,000, empower them to find their own voices to express their concerns, whether it's to us or to the city. So I don't know how you add that, but we're not just serving, but trying to bring them in and empower them to, flap their wings and do it on their own, and maybe join the board, or maybe become, certainly join the committee. So I don't know how you do that within all of that, but that's part of what I think is important for us to do. And that is why on the election campaign, we came up with that notion of your voice counts, not just that your vote counts, but your voice counts. So it was sort of playing on that. So I'd love to somehow see this branding incorporate some of those ideas, whether or not that was expressed in the surveys, because I frankly don't remember what was in the survey. I know I responded to it, and I think it was pretty obvious who it was doing the responses, but I don't remember what the questions were.
Me neither.
But this was so excellent. And also, were you the photographer or was Joshua?
Josh. Yeah, he was.
He loves yellow, I see. No, but there's that sort of just line of yellow going through the photos. So it was a very nice presentation.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's funny because when we start looking at color palettes, I do very much what it seems like you already did. Like I look at all the images of whatever we're working on, and there always seems to be a through line.
Oh yeah,
and,
for me, I like red.
Yeah, I do.
But
I do too.
why? I've told these folks before, because I used to work for Time magazine, and red was the through line.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. But yeah, no, noted on the craftsman, and I did touch on the architecture briefly in the eclectic compositions section, but I didn't mention I mentioned the unique architecture given the sort of old and new and this sort of diverse array of styles, but I didn't include the craftsman, so I can definitely add that.
Right. And I don't know if it's important because this is sort of ephemeral, because things could change again in 2-3 years. But right now, from a land use policy perspective, and I don't know if it's important to this, but we're really, really focusing in on retaining the character homes in front and finding ways to build housing in the rear. So UNNC's become all about, let's create more housing and conserve the character of our community. From the land use committee, not necessarily everybody who lives here's point of view, but that's become a big focus, literally trying to find our way through the maze of building and safety. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. And helping our developers figure out how to get to yes on doing projects like that. So I don't know if that's useful information for you or not.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that idea kind of like definitely jives with a lot of what we said in the presentation.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's how it's. I mean, that's such a perfect way to mix new and old, and to kind of like have a smart solution to a problem while still maintaining a neighborhood.
Right. And it's like the article that John Arnold wrote for you that you put on the website about the one project, but that's sort of as a model. But yeah, it's that merger of, we have to look forward. And I mean, I don't want to use a different organization's slogan, but but preserve the past, but move forward. And not really preserve the past, because the past has some ugly history, but the character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because in the and this will be, and then I'm done because I know it's a little late, but in the
by the way, the agenda says 9:30. I don't know what you meant, but I actually changed it. I changed, but it's okay. We don't want to keep staying.
No, but in our summation slide, we do have a thing that says we celebrate moments past and present that guide us forward.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and then the last thing, and I'm done. But I like overheard some of the conversation before. I think with something like this, because it's a composite of so many different perspectives and hopefully all of our perspectives. I think it would be really helpful if we like create this almost sort of guidelines for us to then work off of, because I know there were some questions about the website and the template for the e-blast and all of that. Like, and once we really define the conceptual and the like sort of amorphous stuff, we really then kind of have like a jumping off point for like, okay, well, we know to reiterate, back to our brand strategy, that we want to make sure that we're feeling like empathetic and like we're advocates for our people and empowering our people. Then we start to kind of like, it informs everything we do after that. So I think it could be really helpful if we go forward with it. So I'm hopeful.
So Raheem, I think Nancy shared with you my concern about bringing a logo to the retreat. Since we don't have funding, I would love the branding presentation to conclude just as it has now at the retreat, and then trigger conversation with all the board members, and then move on to logoing as the year goes on. Lizzie wanted to talk.
And because I don't understand the concern when it comes to funding,
we just don't have money to redo all of our existing materials. We have we only have $14,000 unallocated. By that I mean available for community improvement projects, outreach, events, NPGs. That's all we have left at the moment on paper. I mean, things might change, but at the moment we only have 14,000 total left out of the total budget for the whole year. I don't mean we've spent the other 16, but
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Lizzie.
You're muted.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for this presentation. It was really enlightening to see. While you were going through the presentation, I could hear all the the revisions we have been making to our mission statement and how those ideas were included in this presentation. So thank you for that. There was just one thing that I thought you mentioned about the 6 areas of the UNNC. Maybe graphically, I would like to see some of the landmark, the gateway entrances of some of them. So for example, we have a beautiful clock, not the other gateway entrance to Jefferson Park, which is really, no, that one won't work. But we have a beautiful Jefferson Park clock next to Crenshaw and Jefferson. I don't know which other ones, but
well, Harvard Heights has the monument with the light stands.
Yes, so maybe some of them could be, displayed here and there, because also in the end we are the United Neighborhoods. So we are 6 areas, yes, but we are United Neighborhoods. So I think it would be nice to highlight the spirit of how the name came to be, that we are a whole bunch of small neighborhoods tied in together for this cause of being a neighborhood council. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah,
and taglining on that, 6 regions, and we'd have to count 17 neighborhoods, right? So nobody lives in a region, they live in a neighborhood. No, our stakeholders don't know, oh yeah, I live in area 3 UNNC. They know they live in the avenues. So, right. So it's okay to say 6 regions, but I think then we say, we can count them. It's easy to count our neighborhoods, 17 neighborhoods, 13, whatever the number is. So.
Yeah, no, and I would love to, and Raheem and I had talked about this a little bit too. I think it would be so fun to really highlight the individuality of the neighborhoods. Yeah. So, and
Yep.
I think also, you know, and to the concern about if we were to go down this route of, you know, kind of re-exploring some of the fonts that we're using, whatever. I don't know the budget by any means, and I don't know any of that, but just from your stakeholders perspective, like if the greatest communication and connection with them is digital, it probably wouldn't hurt us much if we lost whatever print we had, because right now we're still losing we don't have a lot of understanding of who we are, it seems.
We have $20,000 worth of banners hanging on street poles.
Okay.
So not that they're the perfect banners by any means, but yeah, exactly. In fact, the ones that these are the replacement of really gorgeous banners that would not at all fit the more modern look. But the point is that and we have standing things that go out when we do outreach. So we can't toss that stuff. And I don't imagine that, well, first of all, this has taken a long enough time that you can tell that there's not going to be enough time to also discuss logo probably at the retreat anyway, because we're well past the 35 minutes with just a few of us making comments, you know, that is on the agenda, tentatively on the agenda retreat. So what I would, this is just my suggestion. I love this presentation. You know, we've given you a few tweaky ideas, but I feel like if it came to a halt just as it did here and then allowed more participation of discussion with the other board members, I think everyone would be very excited about this. And that doesn't mean we stop what you guys are doing, but rather that we build and move on, and hopefully in a couple of months we get another $10,000. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, and here's my thinking, and I'll take it back to our little creative team, but we're gonna go all the way there. We're gonna go all the way to the logo. We can leave it up to the board. You know, that's an argument for the board to hear about whether or not there's, you know, we should value these banners that have been up or anything else that we have printed. Yeah, I think that, you know, what the one thing that we heard so consistently is that that we lack awareness. And so I think clinging to the argument about well, we have these things that have a logo on them. It's like, well, it's an existential question. If there's a banner flapping on a light pole that nobody sees or interacts with, is it actually there? And so again, it's not a question for me. It's a question for the entire board that'll get posed. Yeah. I think we will be tight on time at the retreat, and we'll kind of see where we how far we get. I think we might actually go back and try to refine the presentation a little bit more, so it's a little bit tighter. But
it was a really, really good presentation. I don't know that it needed to be tighter.
Yeah, but I think in the interest of time and in the interest of having the conversation that we want to have and presenting everything that we want to present, that might be a decision that we make. But I'm fairly sure that we're going to go all the way there and just kind of present everything that we have right now and kind of leave everything on the table and see how it goes from there. Yeah. But thank you guys. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lizzie, for all your feedback.
No, each of us have our own individual feedback, but we collaborate together as 23 people. So obviously,
yeah.
I just do want to there's, X number of us here, but there's another, can't count, 18 people. Well, I don't even know how many people are coming to the retreat. I do want to make sure there's time for them to comment.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But oh boy, cool. This was excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much, Mickey.
Yeah.
Really, really great work. Thank you for all your time and
it
energy.
Made me feel so happy to be part of the UNNC.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
And so Mickey, what brought you to this neighborhood? Because that's sort of the question. I mean, not to UNNC, but to here. And does that inform any of this?
Yeah, so my partner's from LA, and when we came from New York, and we were kind of shopping around and really were struggling to find what we wanted and what we cared about. Our old place in Brooklyn was near a park, and we just had a nice quieter kind of lifestyle for Brooklyn, and we found something very comparable in a weird way, where it, I've told Raheem on several occasions, like, it's so nice to have neighbors that you actually like say hello to. And like one of our neighbors honestly she cooks us food sometimes, and she's like the nicest person. So it feels very like family and warmth, and like that's really important to us. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up where we are.
Well, so that's interesting, because I feel actually the very same way. So part of them is what this community is about, is family, warmth, neighborly. So when I moved here, I'm old, 40 years ago, 39 years ago. But the gal who became one of my best friends moved around the same time, and she bought a beautiful Victorian house on LaSalle. And what she then started saying to people, she had a little mantra: I thought I was buying an old house. I wanted to buy an old house, but what I discovered is I purchased a neighborhood and neighbors. And because she was finding herself bringing in all the neighborhood kids, and they're feeding them. I mean, in other words, it was not just her own kids and not just alone in a house, right? So I feel that that's the community. Is that UNNC also? I would hope so.
I think I'm right next to Raheem, so I'm assuming I am, right? I'm close by to you, and I'm within UNNC, right?
Yeah, or you're very close. You're
fringe.
Yeah.
So you live in Arlington Heights.
I live in, I don't know what my neighborhood is technically, but I'm LaSalle and like by LaSalle and Dalton.
Oh, you're in, yeah. So you're right down the street from my friend's former Victorian. Where you literally live is not actually within our boundaries, but a block or two out, in the Charles Victor Hall Tract, established 1887. So,
oh my gosh!
I have a lot of friends in that neighborhood, and we share parks, obviously, and So you're a stakeholder because you share our parks, and if you had kids who were walking to school, you'd be at our schools.
And before we wrap up, I see Josh is here also. I just want to thank Josh for all of his excellent photography that we saw throughout the presentation. These two have been a really great duo for us. Yeah, so
thanks so much.
Thank you both. Yeah, thank you both for all your hard work. But yeah, so we'll get this. We'll make these revisions. We will we'll get it to you, Laura, ahead of the retreat, and we'll present it to the entire board. Thank you guys for being our guinea pigs. And thank you, Mickey.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, you guys have a great night. Have great weeks, and see you soon.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.